Alright, so as I promised, I'll be making the second part of the explanation of DIOs and mix-ups, and this one's likely going to be a bit shorter because I actually left only one or two things to be discussed in this video. So I'll be talking about as high-low and dealing with active and weapon stand characters and how to open those up. So a good example of an active stand would be Polnareff. Let me switch to him so I give you a better example. So what Polnareff can do is he can double jump, and he has great air normals to keep you the fuck out with. He has great anti-airs and buttons to just throw out neutral. And you can also go into remote mode, which DIO doesn't really struggle with too much because DIO has insane movement and you can get right in your face at any point. So I'll show you how to basically deny Polnareff from ever getting in your face and trying to do any funny business with remote mode. That counts for any remote mode character, by the way, even Devo. So the first mix-up I'm going to be going over is the high-low when you're stand on. Let me find out what my stand button was. Okay, inputs, Bluetooth stand, do I have it right? There we go. Alright, so sounds still fine. Alright, so when your opponent goes into stand on mode, they have a stand gauge. And when you stand crash them, you get a full combo. If they block it, you get a stand crush, which is basically a guard break, which resets the combo counter and gives you a full combo. It gives you enough time to turn your stand off, dash twice, and start a full combo as optimally as you would wish. You can even reposition slightly, but I'd honestly suggest just taking your time a little bit, but getting it over as fast as possible and getting the hit in, starting the new combo, because you'd be surprised at how many combos you'll drop just because you're being a retard and positioning way too much. But that's besides the point. So how you would mix up a stand character is by being in their face and being plus. So basically having one neutral, you can force them into a situation where they have to guess and deal with your actual pressure. That's mainly done in a few ways. You can land a jump in on block or on hit, of course, but on hit you can go into a combo. And on block, which I won't be showing right now because for the sake of the example they're basically the same. Or on block you can go into a mix-up, which is this versus this. So allow me to explain. So what you would do is, let's say you're stand on and you land this type of jump in, very far away, very high up. You are still plus, you are at an advantage even though they block it. Let's just put into block. And setting status, stand, block all. Perfect. So at this range, I am still plus, and he has to basically respect me. That means that I can get in his face and push a mix-up. The low option is very obvious. So if you stand on, the low option is this. If they block it, you go into an unblockable, mentioned in the previous video. Go watch that if you haven't already. And the high version is much more interesting. It's this. It's stand jump A into air modus. It is an instant overhead, and because they're stand on, they'll be forced into stand, which will basically make it so that the air modus will not whiff and they will get stand crashed on hit, which goes into a full combo. Let me show it. Just turning this off, walking off. So it looks something like this. So you're pressuring them, do lows and mids, and you just do this, and now you stand crash, then you get a full combo, and you laugh in his face doing 70% with this because you just got hit by some unreactable nonsense that does 70%. You can go meterless. You in general just get anything you want out of that type of stand crash. Now there's some specifics to it, however. So let's get the Joro. Wait, wrong character. Let's get the Joro. Joro is a little bit shorter, and Joro is Joro, so naturally he will press S5A because Joro players like to do that because it shuts down a lot of what DIO can do. What you can do to counter that is you can do 2A. So standoff 2A goes right on you. It actually ducks it. If you condition Joro to not press that button, you'll still be having trouble because you're in Joro's face, and the way that frame data works in this game, Joro still has an advantage because his normals are faster than yours. But the best way, the most reliable way to get this mix-up off on Joro is a maxed range SJC, so somewhere around here, even here all the way, you can sometimes land it. This is what you're looking for, this exact thing on block, and if you can get it on hit, of course, you just confirm it, it's confirmable. You go in his face and you just mix him up. Because this has a lot of blocks, then you won't be comfortably able to mash S5A. If he does, you can bait it by doing something like this. Again, be careful, it's Joro, he can kill you off any button. But generally, you're still at an advantage if you know how to play the situation properly. With heavier gauges like Kakuin and New Kakuin and who else? Who else has a heavy gauge? Midler, and that was basically it. Those characters you have to watch out with because it does not very easily work on them. Allow me to demonstrate. So when characters stand on, he will sometimes fall out. That is not when you do it clean off of pressure like this, but when you do it as a punish. So let's say New Cap, which is the most match applicable example. New Cap will be doing this a lot to you. He will be hitting you with this kind of nonsense, which is his wave dash. So what he would do is he would do this, and the response to it would be that's hard when you're stupid, guys. Alright, like this. You push block it, and then you go right into an instant overhead. You can do it as a punish like this, but they will fall out because they naturally have bigger stand gauges. So if you're planning on doing that, make sure that you've already pressured the stand gauge a little bit. Like this is perfect. Jumps into me, I stand crush him, and I can go into a full combo. If he's not damaged, the combo may or may not fall out. It depends on how deep you dash into him and how low down you land the SJA. And you don't even have to necessarily spend meter. You can even do this, something like that, or something like this. Let me pick an easier character to show it off on. Vulneraf, there we go. Some combo routes you can go into, or this is generally the easiest, most reliable one. S5B into Rekkers, or S6B rather, it's a different normal. Don't worry about it. Just do a normal into Rekkers, or normal into a knockdown like this. You can even do loops. You can go into dashing to B. And because pole is thin, it doesn't work pretty well on him. On DIO it would work. And you can go into this type of combo, into standoff, into huge damage. And generally the options are very broad. I won't go too much into that. One thing I will go into over is Avdol, and I will need to turn on the hitboxes for this. So, Avdol is the second thinnest character in the game. His push box is a pixel thinner than his hurt box. So the blue part is where you can get hit. The yellow part is where the characters collide with each other, his collision box. So when Avdol goes stand on, you see he gets considerably thicker. However, he also gets taller. And you might be thinking, why is that an issue? Well, because once you hit him, he becomes shorter. You see, the level that his head is at is what it was originally in stand-off mode, as you can see. And that means that sometimes your combo will just drop. And Avdol can just DP you. Like this. This hit. It is possible to do reliably, but he will of course be push blocking you while you're doing mids. So from like this range, it is going to fall out just because he gets shorter, and your Muda hits are not going to be low enough to impact him well enough. So you should be watching out for that versus Avdol. Preferably damage his stand gauge somehow. I know he has very fucked up normals. You can have some trouble getting in, but it'll pay off if you just pressure him a bit earlier on, like get a few hits in and then start pressuring him like this, because it's just way safer, because Avdol can mash DP and he can guard cancel you and you'll eat a DP. It's not a big deal, you won't die, but it's not nice. It's not a thing you want to be dealing with. Now this also technically works on old Joseph. However, I wouldn't really suggest it. Let me turn and stand on. Because old Joseph sure it works on him, but not all weapon stands work the same. It works just fine on old Joseph. But on old Joseph, what I personally do is I just try to bait out a roll, because stand on, he can still roll, and his roll is horrendous. You can just hit him out of it. Don't even need to mix him up. So you could just be looking for that. Other weapon stands, Chaka. Technically possible to do it on. Let me just do it to him. But Chaka up close is still very dangerous as a counter, of course, which honestly you shouldn't be using too often, but still, it's a thing you have to keep in mind. And both Old Joseph and Chaka need to be done pretty tight to hit as an instant overhead. So if you're planning on going for those, you should be looking to practice them a lot. Same goes for Vanilla Ice. On Vanilla Ice, it's actually 2 frames if you want to hit them with SJA. You need a perfect instant overhead, a perfect short jump, and then you have 2 frames to hit them with the SJA, like this, which is why I fucking hate fighting ice, but that's besides the point. Another very, very dumb mix-up, but it technically still is a mix-up, no matter how dumb it is, and I need to show. Also, Alessi, you just don't bother trying this on Alessi. You just won't hit him. No stand-on jumping normal hits him, to my knowledge. That one, sure, but like, really, don't do this on Alessi. It won't work. Just don't worry about it. Another stupid mix-up that I am aware of, which you shouldn't be doing conventionally, Keep in mind this is extremely dumb, not very practical, but it's still a thing you can do if you're very desperate. You can still catch some people off guard with it. Let me put it on DIO. You just do this. You just do this and do this and over. Now my opponent is perfectly push blocking, of course, so it won't work, but it is still something you can scum some people out with. Keep in mind, you can get punished if the character is expecting it, but no one's expecting it to just get into their face, do this, and then miss an overhead. So it is an option if you're that desperate. Another thing you can do is on Devo. He is a remote-only character. This is how you deal with remote pressure. So let's say he gets up to you, he's pressuring you with the doll. You should get good at this because it's also good versus whole horse and for punishing full screen stuff in general against SDO and some other characters. If he's planning on pressuring you with the doll and you smell it coming, you do this. Just instant air knives, as close to the ground as possible. Like this. Fucking it up right now, but it does insane amounts of damage, and your opponent's stand will get clipped by the lowest knives, making it so that they can't turn stand off. And the other knives will do like triple damage. This did how much? 35%? This does 20%. It's not nothing. It's considerable damage. Your opponent will get scared shitless seeing all of that travel towards them, and it's also pretty humiliating to get hit by that. Another thing you can do to deal with remote mode is this. Let me just separate them. So let's say he's stand on close to you. Turns the stand off immediately. Into S2A, into wait. 2-3 success turns their stand off immediately. You want to always default to doing this. And then if you see Devo, for example, roll, you can grab him. If the doll's far away. If it's another character, you can just do this. They can block during it, so they'll have to contest it, but they'll have to contest it with something like a super or a 3-frame normal. That's not always acceptable, so this is generally almost guaranteed against most people. I'm not aware of the specifics, but when I do this, it usually works. I know it sounds like dumb advice, it might be misinformation, but this will generally get a lot of people. I'm not aware if they can block or they cannot block. I don't know how to test it, so if anyone knows, put it down in the comments of the video, because I actually want to know as well. But this generally gets people and 2-3 success into grab. Like this, if they roll, that is. Like that. So that was basically it, for the most part. I don't know what video I'll be doing next, but this is about it for this one. If I forget anyone or I think this video becomes obsolete or outdated, I'll of course redo it. But this should be about it. See you guys.